Whenever it turns 6:30, Mayor, you're ready.
Okay, welcome everyone to the regular Board of Trustee meeting for Tuesday, June 9th, 2020. Is a motion to open the meeting. Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Nell, all in favor? Meeting is open. Could we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To
to the flag of the United
States of America,
to the republic for which it
stands,
one nation, under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty.
liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'm going to read the instructions for how to view the meeting. They have been posted on the village website and are attached to the agenda. The meeting is being streamed live on the village's YouTube website and via Zoom by either video or phone. With regard to tonight's public hearing and for courtesy of the floor, if you are participating via Zoom, either by phone or video, you can raise your hand and we will call on residents in the order in which they do so. In order to raise your hand, you should click on the icon labeled participants and a column appears on the right-hand side. At the bottom of that window is the raise your hand button. For people calling in by phone, you can push *9 in order to raise your hand. We will let you know it is your turn by calling either your name or your phone number. So those are the instructions for how to view the meeting, and those are the instructions on how to view and participate in the public hearing and for courtesy of the floor. Tonight, the first item on the agenda is the public hearing. We'll have a motion to open the public hearing regarding the review of the application for 41C. Is there a motion? Deputy Mayor Castel, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor? Okay, the public hearing is now open. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Yes, I'm just going to move them over right now.
Good evening, sorry. My name is Linda Whitehead. I'm an attorney with the firm of McCullough, Goldberger and Stout. We represent Cedar Commons LLC, the owner of the property located at 41 Cedar Street. With me tonight is my client, Cosmo Marfione. Cosmo is the principal of Cedar Commons LLC. We also have our architect, Christina Griffin, our planning consultant, Dave Smith, and our traffic engineer, Carlito Holt, who will all be speaking to you tonight. And we also have others who will be sharing their screen to present some plans as we go through the presentation. This is a continuation of the public hearing, which you opened on March 10th on this matter. Christina's going to take you through the plans in a minute, but as a reminder, our client is proposing to demolish the existing retail and residential structures on the property and construct a new mixed-use building. This building will have street front retail, 15 two-bedroom units, including 2 affordable units, 24 new off-street parking spaces, where today there are none, a pocket park for outdoor seating adjacent to the building, and we'll be replacing the existing deteriorated sanitary sewer and stormwater pipes, which served South Presbyterian Church to the rear. I think, did we want to share the screen, Suzanne? I apologize, technical
Okay.
difficulties. Here we go. So over the last year, since the project was first before you and since you first referred it out to the planning board, the project has evolved based upon the review and comments from the planning board, the AHRB, and the public. We believe that this process was helpful and productive, and that the project, as you see it today, is better and in keeping with the historic character of Cedar Street and the downtown. There's been many plans and studies that were submitted to the planning board and the AHRB. The project was reviewed by those boards and also the village's consultants, engineering consultant, traffic consultant, and planning consultant. All of these materials, the prior plans, the consultant memos, our consultants' responses to the comments, were all provided to you through a Dropbox so that you would have those all for review. The planning board at its September 5th, 2019 meeting, and the AHRB at its January 13th, 2020 meeting have recommended approval of the project. And we hope that your board will now follow their recommendations and grant site plan approval for the project. They both found that it met with the design guidelines, the vision plan, and would be a benefit to the village. To address some things that came up at the March 10th hearing, someone raised a question regarding what had been shown to you originally as Scheme B, or we're referring to it now as Design B, which had originally been presented. We have submitted to you now updated plans for Design B, which incorporate some of the architectural changes which have been requested during the review. Design B differs from the proposed scheme or Design A that was previously reviewed, and that it includes a partial 4th floor, which is set back about 37.5 feet so that it's not visible from street level. It includes the same 15 two-bedroom units, slightly smaller retail space. The required and provided parking are reduced by 1 parking space since the retail space is reduced. But the biggest change that we believe creates the biggest benefit is that the parking is provided on the 1st floor behind the retail space rather than below grade. This reduces the extent of site disturbance and excavation, and therefore reduces the construction time frame and construction impacts. This is actually a comment that was made by the AHRB in their memo to you, where they recommended the plan. This plan still meets the goals of the vision plan and the design guidelines, and complies with zoning, which allows you to approve a 4th floor under certain conditions, including that it be stepped back as this is. And Christina will show you the plan in more detail in a minute. We're aware that a number of issues have been raised regarding the visual impact of this building on the adjacent Zion Episcopal Church, and also regarding trees on the property, and also trees and vegetation on the Zion Church property. We're going to be showing you an updated virtual reality presentation as we did back in March. I'm going to show you the same thing for the new plan for Design B. And what we've been able to do, since we've now had an arborist look at all the trees and a surveyor locate them, that presentation has been updated to incorporate the actual trees, and you'll be able to see what the building looks like from multiple angles, including from the Zion Church property. Based upon the elevation difference and the distance between the buildings, we do not believe there is any impact on the Zion Church, any negative impact. The AHRB spent a significant amount of time looking at this issue and agreed. With respect to the trees, there was discussion at the March meeting about the need for an arborist to take a look at what exists both on our client's property as well as on the Zion Church property in the area of the property line. Our client retains Save a Tree Consulting Group, certified arborists. They've provided a report which was submitted to you and was also provided to the Zion Church. The report didn't only address trees, but we had them also address some of the smaller bushes and other vegetation, since a lot of the vegetation in that area is of that smaller type. We're not intending to remove any vegetation on the church's property. The vegetation in the area of the property line on our client's property will need to be removed to allow for the installation of the new utilities that will serve both the property and South Presbyterian Church, and also to allow for the proposed pocket park. A landscape plan for this area has been submitted. And in fact, except for the area of the pocket park, most of the area will remain vegetated and in better shape. This area was referred to in some of the correspondence from the Zion Church as a green buffer with much existing growth. But again, the Save a Tree report indicates that the trees being removed in the area on our client's property are in poor or fair condition or dead in some cases. And most are invasive species and inappropriate for the area. So it clearly is not a valuable buffer as it exists today. The new landscaping will utilize all native species and will present an improvement over this current condition. And except for the area of the pocket part, it will remain green and greener than it is today. Our clients made efforts to discuss the landscaping with the Zion Church and to meet with them on site. The South Presbyterian Church has worked with us and spoken with them to try to set up this meeting. Unfortunately, as recently as yesterday, Zion Church indicated they were not able to meet. Our client continues to be happy to provide additional landscaping on the Zion Church side, could screen the new retaining wall on their property, and it could be done with attractive flowering bushes such as azaleas or lilacs, and it could make a nice screen on their side for that wall. And we're still willing to have that discussion. Some comments were also made regarding traffic and the need for review by a traffic consultant. As we've pointed out, our client did submit a comprehensive traffic and parking study prepared by Provident Design Engineering. This was submitted to you. It was reviewed by Mazer Consulting on behalf of the village. Mazer submitted some comments, which our consultant responded to as well. So this was looked at in quite some detail because we know it's an area of concern. Interestingly, today there are, I believe, 3 retail uses in the building and a residential use and no off-street parking. We are reducing that to 1 or 2 retail uses depending on the plan. The Providence study indicates the project would result in only a minimal increase in traffic over that currently generated and a reduction in parking demand since we're providing off-street parking. So just to summarize, the proposed project provides many benefits to the village of Dobbs Ferry, including those set forth in the vision plan. Additional residences, including 2 affordable units, will be provided in the downtown. New residents will bring significant spending power and add to the vitality of the downtown, meeting the goals of the vision plan. The new construction will be attractive and in keeping with the character of Cedar Street as determined by both the planning board and the AHRB. The new pocket park will be provided for the benefit of the village. And of great significance in the current economic climate, the project will generate a significant increase in tax revenues to the village and the school district. All of these are objectives that are set forth in the vision plan. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Christina and have her take you through the plans. Christina, are you there? Are you muted?
I just unmuted. Good evening, everyone. I'm delighted to hear and show you our latest ideas based on our response.
I can't hear her.
Yeah, we're not hearing you clearly, Christina.
I have a way to fix that. Just a second. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Just raise the volume. Okay. What I'd like to do is show briefly the virtual reality presentation for Design A. This is the project that we presented to you at your last meeting in March, at our last meeting with you in March. And just to refresh your memory, we're just going to take you through this quickly. And then we're going to show you a virtual reality of our Design B. And the big difference is Design B has the parking on the first floor behind the retail and the fourth floor that's set back from the front and side facades. And the major benefit, as we discussed, was to reduce the amount of construction time and the amount of disruption. And we're doing this at your request from the last meeting. So we're going to start down here. We're going to walk westward towards the building. And you can see the Zion Church in the background as this is taken at a eye level of an adult person walking down the street. And our proposed 3-story building is on the left. This is our scheme A. And we're just going to continue to walk up the street. So our scheme A, or our Design A, has the driveway on the left that has a ramp going down to parking below. And Seema, I think we can just go a little faster because this is the same virtual reality we showed you last time, but I think we have changed it slightly so that we have more realistic plantings along at the property line between Zion and the Cedar Commons site. So we are up here on the Zion Church property looking back at the building. And the trees that you see there is a simulation of the trees that we see on the survey based on the caliper size and photographs. Okay, so this is our scheme, our Design A with 3 stories parking below. Now I'd like to go to our Design B. And we have a virtual reality of that building. And just give us a few minutes to make the transition. Okay, so here again, we're going to show you how you would see the building as you walk down the sidewalk. You can see the Zion Church in the background, the proposed building on the left. Now this building is our scheme, our Design B, which has a 4th floor, and you can just barely see it on the left. Maybe go back a little bit, Seema. You see it up there. We have the idea, we designed the building so that you could hardly see the 4th floor at all from a pedestrian view. We've set it back 37 feet 6 inches. So as you go down the street, you'll still see the Zion Church. The building is actually the same height, same design as before, except except for the fourth floor and the garage. So the entry to the garage is in the same location on the left, except with this design, you would go straight into the parking that is around the back of the retail space. The front facade stays exactly the same. This is the design that was received a favorable recommendation from the AHRB, and a lot of the ideas for this facade, just to refresh your memory, has a lot to do with thinking about what really fits in the downtown and how we can comply with Dobbs Ferry Vision Plan and downtown design guidelines. So we have a really nice storefront facade, which has a lower cornice line, and then we have a residential facade that's capped by an upper cornice. Same design as before. So we're going to now walk around our design B to the right. The entry is exactly as before with a glass roof. We have kept our pocket park. And then we're going to show you how you would see the building as you walk up onto the Zion Church property, and then turn around and look back. Okay, so if you're looking back again, these are the trees that are based on the sizes that we see on the survey and the photographs that we have. That we plug them into the model, so it would be more realistic than last time. You're looking at the old stone wall and the pillar at the very bottom. And of course, we're planning to keep or restore that pillar. And our concept for our planting on the other side of the wall is to provide a green buffer that helps to soften the view of the building. So Seema, could you please go up the hill? I'd like to show you the view. We were asked at the last meeting to provide more views from the Zion Church property. So we're going to show you what it would look like if you look down at the top corner. Now, you see this view, the grade comes up. So at this point, at some point towards the back of the building, the parking is totally hidden from view. And you see 3 stories of the building. Now, I'd like to point out the fact that the 4th floor is set back 10 feet on this side and very far from the front, 37 feet 6. What we've done is we've taken the 3 units that were on the 1st floor and we've put them on the top floor. We've kept the building, the design of the building, otherwise the same. The lower roof is the same 40-foot height, and now we have an upper roof that is about 51.5 feet high. And the benefit of putting those 3 units up there is we're able to trade that for a garage, which is an parking area, which is now on the 1st floor and behind the retail space, eliminating all the construction you have to do to excavate and build down below. Now I'd like to move on to the architectural drawings. And Suzanne's going to put those up for us. Okay. This is just a quick review of what we've prepared for zoning for our design B. We still will meet the zoning for building coverage and lot coverage. We will meet all the requirements for parking. We will have 23 spaces in the garage and 3 spaces provided on the street, 26 spaces in total, which is required. Previously, we had 24 in the garage, but we were able to reduce by 1 space simply by reducing the area of the commercial space from 1,900 to 1,400 square feet. I'd like to go to our site plan, our garage plan. to show you that the layout of the driveway is the same, but it is not a ramp going down anymore. It is a ramp going up to parking in back of the building. We still have we have a stair and elevator to go up to spaces above, a common recycling area, and a retail space that is now 1,400 square feet, which could either be a one retail company, retail business, or two. But the shape of the building is the same as before, except now there's parking that comes out from the back wall of the building, but the footprint and shape of the building has stayed the same otherwise. I'd like to move on to the second floor plan. Is exactly the same as before. We have 6 units on the second floor. And then the third floor, we have 6 units again, exact plan as before. There's one affordable housing unit on each of these floors. And then now on the new 4th floor, these are the 3 units that used to be on the 1st floor, but we've traded that with the garage. And these 3 units are set back from the front facade quite a bit, and it's going to be a common roof deck. And then on the right, on the west facade, we have a setback of 10 feet. We also have a 5-foot setback on the side, but in the back, it's flush. Suzanne, please, the next slide. Yes. These are our new elevations. The elevation along Cedar Street is identical. We have not changed it. All we've done is we're showing the 4th floor. That is set back 37 feet 6. Corner detail is exactly the same. Suzanne, next one, please. This is our west elevation facing Zion Church. And as you can see, there's a dashed line here to show the existing grade. And under here, where I don't know if you can see my cursor, maybe not. But anyway, the parking now is tucked in behind the retail space, and part of it is coming out the back. But I'd like you to follow the dashed line of the existing grade, because it shows that about a little more than half of the parking is going to be hidden under that grade. This facade is the same as before, our 2nd and 3rd floor. And the difference from design A is that we've added the 4th floor up here with the setback in the front, next elevation. And this is our rear facade showing our 4th floor above. Now, another advantage of this is that if you can see this dashed line, yeah, Suzanne's got it there. That's the grade at the south side of the building. So at the south side, you will only, even though you have a 4th floor, you will only see 3 floors above that grade. And the rest of it is down below.
Christine, I'm sorry to interrupt. What is the height of the building with the 4th floor?
51 feet 6. It's right over here on the left. And the lower roof is 40 feet. The lower roof is code. This is height is beyond the maximum 40 feet. Next elevation or next slide. This is our streetscape for design B, showing existing conditions of the theater building and the existing buildings that are there. The elevation of that, I believe the top of these buildings like 213. And down below is our proposed for our design B. The top of I think Suzanne is enlarging it for you. The top of the roof here and of our design B is exactly as it was before, which is elevation 212. It's 1 foot below the top of the theater building. But as you see, we've added that 4th floor above, which is at elevation 223.5. Next slide, please. Okay, this is our landscape plan. This is for design B, and what we're showing is the same bucket part. Our intention is to create a green buffer here between the 2 properties. And this is showing a combination of shrubbery and ground cover, all native plants. And I just want to point out they cannot be deep-rooted plants because this is on top of that utility easement where we have a new drain pipe that's going to be serving the South Presbyterian Church. At this point, I'd like Linda to mention, tell us a little bit about the arborist report with respect to how the trees that are right along the property line. And Suzanne is showing us the trees that were located and numbered. All these trees in green were located, and they're all noted species and sizes based on the, was prepared by the arborist. And I believe Linda wanted to have something to say about the situation with these trees. Is that
Yeah,
right,
so I
Linda?
already said some of it, but
I think you did.
again, on our property, and again, there's not a significant number of large trees. There's a lot of smaller trees that wouldn't normally be regulated, but we had Save a Tree identify pretty much everything that was there. Most of it, both on the Zion property as well as our client's property, are invasive species. A lot of them have not been well maintained. And you can take a look at the report that you all have. Some are dead, some are just not in great shape. But again, there's been a real trend towards getting away from invasive species and trying to use more native species. So what we're proposing is to plant native species. We can't go with deep root species on our side because we have these sewer and drainage lines under there. So, but we do have a pretty detailed landscape plan that are not deep rooted that will work with that. And again, we're happy to talk to Zion and propose and do some low plantings, do some flowering shrubs, things like that on their side of the line. Would soften the view of the retaining wall and fill in between the trees. We hope that they've taken a look at the report because we think there's already some concerns with some of the vegetation on their property, not only those that are invasive, but also those that seem to have some health issues at this point. And that's really just, you can all read the report yourselves. Those were the main points. So Christina, if you want to continue from there.
Sure, thank you. Suzanne, I just wanted to let everyone know, we also have our civil engineer's drawings here. And he revised his drawings to show, to make sure they were coordinated with our scheme, our design B drawings. And really, they're not very different. They have a similar storm drainage system that they're showing on this plan here, but we just brought them in case there are any questions related to the storm drainage system. And now I think I'd like to turn this over to Carlito Holt to discuss traffic and parking.
Thanks, Christina. Good evening, everyone. Carlito Holt with Provident Design Engineering. As Linda had mentioned in her opening remarks, we prepared a traffic and parking report that was subsequently reviewed by Maser Consulting as part of the planning board process. And we provided detailed responses to Maser's comments, at which point the planning board found those acceptable to make the positive recommendation to your board. I just want to go through two tables which you've seen previously, but just highlight the difference in the traffic and parking numbers from the design A to the design B. So the table you're looking at here is the trip generation table. So you have the peak AM hour, peak PM hour, and peak Saturday hour, which are the three critical time periods for looking at traffic impacts. And as you may recall, in the design A, there was very minimal increase during any of those peak hours when considering the proposed use to the currently permitted use. Only a 6-vehicle increase during the AM hour and a 3-vehicle increase during the PM and Saturday hour. With the reduction in the retail square footage for the Design B concept, now you would have even less of an impact during those times where you'd only have a 5-vehicle increase in the AM hour, and you would actually see a net reduction of 4 vehicles per hour during the PM and Saturday hours. Suzanne, if you want to go to the next slide. So now this is the parking demand comparison table that we had presented previously. Again, now looking at the Design B numbers compared against the Design A numbers. And we looked at 3 peak parking demand periods, one on a weekday, non-Friday, a Friday peak parking demand period, as well as a Saturday peak parking demand period. And what you can see is that if you focus in on that last row, the incremental difference in on-street parking demand is a reduction in on-street parking demand since we're moving all this parking off-street. And it's the same in Design A or Design B because there's one less off-street parking space provided in Design B because there's less retail square footage that demands that parking. So from a parking standpoint, Design A and Design B are a wash. They're exactly the same on a demand standpoint. Next slide. And this was a traffic and parking summary that we did previously at the last board meeting. And this is really agnostic, whether it's Design A or Design B. The site driveway still operates at a level of service A or B under either scenario. Shopping site distance is the same. Site driveway location is the same location. The 17-foot wide driveway because you have very minimal traffic in and out of the parking garage. Overall, there's a positive impact on traffic circulation because you take more movements off street as opposed to people driving around looking for a space on street. And overall, as you saw on that last table, there's a positive impact on on-street parking demand. So I'll turn it over to Dave to go over economic summary.
Great, thank you. I'm just checking. This is Dave Smith from Planning Development Advisors. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I had a little technical difficulties getting on. I still use a flip phone every now and then, so I appreciate your patience. So I'm just going to quickly go over the economic summary. This was prepared very early on in the project as part of the Design A. This is part of a report that we had prepared for the village board. It was submitted last May 6th. It included the program, 15 units and approximately 2,000 square feet of retail. And essentially what we've done is we've looked at comparables within the village, and particularly we've used the Print House Lofts project as a kind of a baseline or a comparison. And we were able to get sales information and based on square footage of the units, able to calculate the projected tax revenue. And so the chart that you have before you illustrates the existing revenue from the site and then the projected revenue. And I think as we've reviewed for this, for the village in the past, there's a fairly significant delta in the increase in tax revenue that's projected as part of the project. This is a fairly high-end residential project. We do have some retail component, but I think that from a fiscal standpoint, this is a project that provides some significant benefits to the various taxing municipalities, both the village, the school district, and then town and county. If we could move to the next slide. Oh, before we get to that, I apologize. Just because we've been comparing Design A with Design B, Design B has a slightly different revenue generator. Because the units are slightly bigger, the tax implications means that there's generally a bump up of approximately $10,000 in taxes across the board for all of the different districts. And that's simply a function that the units are bigger, it means they're valued appropriately. If we can move on to the next. So economic summary. Again, this is a significant investment by BDC. We're approaching $10 million for site development, construction. We're anticipating we're going to generate at least 50 construction-related jobs and 5 full-time jobs upon project completion. And we understand there was a comment made at the last public hearing that the site currently has a retail component, and we don't know exactly how many retail jobs are currently with the existing property. So we're considering this more or less a wash. We didn't want to necessarily say that we're creating 5 full-time additional jobs, but we're expecting that 5 full-time jobs will be part of the proposed project. And then lastly, because we're bringing in 15 new households within the Dobbs Ferry downtown, and because of the price of the units, each of these households brings with it discretionary income, which they'll spend within the greater Dobbs Ferry community. And it's projected that approximately $1.3 million is the discretionary spending. And we think because this is a kind of a smart growth, a TOD-oriented development, where you're fostering development in downtown and villages, you're directing development towards communities within existing infrastructure, and you're creating walkable neighborhoods, that the residents that live here will more than likely rely on goods and services that are within convenient walking distance. If we move to the next slide. So now I'm just going to quickly wrap up in the comparison of the Design A and Design B. Design A, again, the 3-story with the parking at the basement, 15 rooms, condominium units, 2,000 square feet. Of the 15 units, I think it's important 2 of those are affordable. It's compliant with all the zoning, building regulations, the vision plan, and the design guideline. Again, impacts and effects, we have the infusion of the $1.3 million in discretionary spending within the greater Dobbs Ferry community. Increase in tax revenues and fees as related to project development, creation of 50 construction-related jobs. As Carlito had reviewed, lower current street parking demand and slight increase in peak hour traffic. So then now we're going to Design B, just so that we wanted to provide you with a weighing and balancing of both aspects of the design. Design B, we've added the 4th story with parking at the rear, with retail, slightly less retail component on the 1st floor. Again, 15 units, 2 of which are affordable, compliant with zoning, vision plan, and the building. Although the addition of the 4th story is a discretionary action by the village board. The impact and effect, again, all of the Design A components, plus I think as Christina had reviewed, a decrease in the construction time because there's less excavation, potential for rock removal, less increase of peak hour traffic, and a slight increase in tax revenue compared to Design A. So Mayor and members of the board, that concludes kind of a summary. I'm going to turn it back over to Linda to wrap up the presentation, and thank you.
So we believe that over the course of the last year and working with your boards and the changes that have been made and the studies that have been done and presented and reviewed by your consultants, that really all the concerns have been addressed. The plan meets the goals of the vision plan and the design guidelines, and therefore we respectfully request that the Board of Trustees follow the recommendations of the Planning Board and the AHRB and make a negative declaration under SECRA and grant site plan approval. And with that, we are happy to answer any questions.
Well, I want to thank you, Ms. Whitehead, for your presentation. I do have some questions, but first I want to turn to Ed Manley and just ask Ed, what district is this in?
District, it's downtown business, DB.
So if we were to decide that a 4th floor is proper, what are the requirements for us to do that? Do you know that?
Well, I believe the code says that it needs to help the affordability in the downtown. But that would be Laura Lee's
Laura
purview
Lee-
there. It needs to set back 10 feet and can be up to 45 feet high. So this would need a little waiver of 6.5 feet, because
Is it
that 51.5.
Is it 45 feet downtown or is it 40 feet downtown that it could go to max?
So maximum as of right is 40 feet. But when you allow it to be increased to 4 stories, the height goes up to 45 feet with the 4th story.
Okay. And I think, Laura Lee, you can correct me, we'd have to show that it would accomplish the goal and objectives of enhancing residential diversity
Yes,
and affordability in the downtown, correct?
yes.
Okay, so Ms. Whitehead, could you talk to that a little bit? Could you tell us why you think this would accomplish the goal of enhancing residential diversity and affordability downtown?
Sure. Well, the plan will provide for 2 affordable units. So clearly there is an affordability element to it with two affordable 2-bedroom units.
It would have the 2 affordable units regardless of whether we go to the 4th floor or not. Is that correct?
Depending on the total number of units being provided. If the total number of units were to reduce too much, then that number might change. The code also talks about just public benefits. It says if you find that there's public benefits of the development for the 4th story. So we think there are a number of public benefits just by meeting the goals of the vision plan. And I'm actually gonna, if he stops drinking his coffee, hand it over to Dave to see if, as our planner, if he has anything to add on the other factors.
Okay.
Well, as part of, and I hate to defer this back to Christina, but we did prepare as part of our submissions to the planning board how we specifically responded to the vision plan and the design guidelines. If I could impose upon Christina, maybe if you have that in front of you, but there were a number of elements that were identified in the vision plan where we came up with specific responses that how this project responds to that document, that policy document.
I think the question though is how the 4th story gives us more than how the 4th story benefits us more than the 3 story. They're the same amount of units. They're the same amount of affordable units.
Okay, well, I think part of the discussion was, as we were looking at both designs, the construction-related impacts for design A require more excavation, probably a longer time frame with respect to construction, simply because of the excavation. And I think
how much longer it would be?
Cosmo, do you have a sense? I think we had discussed that at one point.
Sure. For the record, Cosmo Morfione, owner of Cedar Commons LLC. We believe that it could potentially decrease excavation by 3 to 6 months. Okay.
It was one of the reasons that the AHRB actually recommended looking at it to reduce the construction impacts.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to ask Laura Lee to either review it for a later date or if she can comment now. But it seems to me, maybe you can clarify it, Laura Lee, but I mean, the only way we can allow a 4th story is if it accomplishes the goal and objectives of enhancing residential diversity and affordability in downtown. So I don't know if that's correct, Laura Lee, or
Yes, in table B8, the downtown district's dimensional standards, the notes A says it may be increased to 4 stories and 45 feet in the downtown business district at the discretion of the boards to accomplish the goal and objectives of enhancing residential diversity and affordability in the downtown.
So I know we had asked you to present on the fourth story, and I'm happy to look at it, but I just wanted to know if you could address how that would be any different to achieve those goals as opposed to the third story, three-story project.
So I'll take this one. It wouldn't be any different. We could potentially, remember, we're okay doing design A. We're totally okay doing design A. We
Right.
could potentially, the only thing we would need to do is get up to a point where we could potentially add another affordable unit, but we would need to look at the geometry of all the units so that we could add perhaps another market rate unit.
Okay,
And I believe that if we could add another affordable unit and add another market rate unit, that question could be answered. I think the diversity, I mean, the project itself adds diversity no matter what. Are you adding more diversity by adding another affordable unit and another market rate unit? Of course, there's a potential that you are adding more diversity because you're adding more, more people to the project. The other thing is, if we add more units, we run the risk of not complying with other codes, such as the parking code. So I think you also have to look at it that, we're at 15 units, which is, it's not a great unit mix to be at because you're rounding up for the affordability because you have to get 10% of the units. So right now we're 1.5 units, which gets rounded up to 2 units. So we are, theoretically, if parking allowed, and we could figure out the geometry, we could technically by code add more density and still be at, all the way up to 20 and still be at 2 affordable units. So I think, I think we could look at all that, but I think we're just keeping on opening ways that this will not conform to the zoning. Now, I believe, and I've been texting with the group as we're talking here a little bit, I believe we could certainly get that height down to 45 feet because we do have a large retail height. And we could adjust some of the heights on the floors. We could adjust some of the retail heights, and we could get that down to 45 feet and comply with the zoning.
Okay.
But I mean, I don't know how else that fourth story could increase the affordability for the,
Would you, again, it may be, no deal on this, but what if you gave an additional affordable housing unit so that there were 3 affordable housing units in the 15 units without increasing additional units, just making 1 unit on the top floor affordable?
I think if we did that, it wouldn't be on the top floor because I think the top floor
Yeah.
is sort of, by having those units on the top floor, it might allow for, because they're the more valuable units. So a trade-off of having those, and I'm not going to speak for Cosmo, but that could potentially allow for an additional affordable on the lower floors. But one other thing, it's interesting because in section 300-36,
Yeah, I have subsection.
the language is
1.
different.
Yeah, it's different.
So the language is different in the text than it is in the table.
Yeah.
So in the text, it just says, after a reasoned judgment setting forth the public benefits of the development for the 4th floor. And that's where there is definitely a public benefit to bringing the parking up to the 1st floor, which can be done by having that partial 4th floor.
And I would say that if we could figure out a way geometrically to add 1 more unit and make it 16, I would certainly push for 3 affordable units and you would still have 3 out of 16, which is
More than required.
30% or something. Let me just look at my math. 3 divided by 16. You got
He's an engineer. He should be able to do
you got
math.
over 18%, almost 19%, which is almost double what is required of affordable units. But we would need a variance on the parking. It's a small variance, but we would still need a variance on the parking. So you're essentially, if we all agree to that, as both somebody who's a citizen there, who has investment there now, and the village, what we've done is increase affordable units by almost doubling what is required, decreasing construction time, decreasing impact, and I believe overall is a better project, even though right now we do have a design that works, that is conforming to everything that the village has proposed, has in their guidelines and vision plan. But we would take, we would take the opportunity to, we would take the extra time, the extra, go around to present this to you. But we would need some soft commitments from the board to help us go through the process. Remember, our aim is to provide the best possible, the most optimal design for the village, because we want to be proud of what we're doing, and we want to continue to working with in the village. So yes, I think these are all good things. We could also figure out a way, maybe instead of doing a two bedroom affordable units, perhaps we could do 2 1-bedroom and 1 2-bedroom. We could work with that. But again, we would need some sort of soft commitment from the village that they work with us with the parking.
And the change to 1-bedroom units actually makes the parking variance less,
Right.
because
No,
the
maybe-
1-bedroom
no, maybe
units only
eliminate it,
require 1
Linda.
space.
Yeah, possibly eliminated.
Yeah, possibly eliminate it. So we'll take a look at that.
Cosmo,
That's not a
thank
problem.
you. Appreciate that. And I think that the way that you are thinking about it right now does address those components in the table that Lori Lee mentioned for the 2 issues. And I guess looking at the overall height from the perspective of the retail taking a little bit out, and maybe there's some ways that can be addressed and get closer to 45, I think then hits a lot of the points that would make this a sensible path for the board to look at granting the 4th story. I think it helps you construction time, and it helps the village to minimize the disruption for potentially talking about 3 to 6 months of disruption to local businesses, to local traffic, to noise, to dust, to just sort of general headache. And I think this is a step in the right direction.
Any other comments by the board?
When we were looking at the 3D, is it only from across the street, the vantage point? Is there a rendering that shows us when you're walking on the same side as the street?
Well, we can set the virtual reality so that we can show you what it's like walking on that side. We can't, I don't think we're set up to do that tonight, but we can take
Yeah,
you down the other side
yeah.
up to the building. Is that what you're thinking of? Something on the other side along the building?
Yeah, if you're walking with the building on your left towards Main Street, on the same side as the street, Cedar Street. I don't know if it's west, east, north, or south, but
We can do that. We can simulate somebody walking that way and show you what that looks like. I don't know if Sina can do that right now. Yes, here he goes.
great. If you could do it now, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Across the street.
Watch for cars, Sina. Run over.
See, he can do anything.
It looks like in that view, and I thought I saw this from the other side of the street as well, that the way that this rendering looks, that the building is not flush to the rest of the storefronts on Cedar, that it sticks out into the sidewalk more. Is that just an optical illusion?
Yes, it is flush. This building is flush with the facade of the theater building. According to our plans, I'm looking at the survey and the maybe there's some error in this rendering. We would try very hard to make it as realistic as possible, but our plans show our building is flush to the property line, which is in line with the theater building.
And we could fix that. That's not a problem. That's just a matter of taking the 3D model of the building and rotating it clockwise to make sure that it's and that it's skewed properly on it. So yes, we could certainly fix that.
Yeah.
Is there a way we could see the parking lot view from the church, the outdoor parking lot? Can we see that?
From the church, I'm not sure it's visible, but
South Presbyterian Church
Or Zion Church?
or Zion. It's hard to
On the last presentation that we saw with the 3D, with the other elevation, there was a very nice presentation of different angles of walking from Main Street into Cedar and going even into the back of the building. With this particular height of the 4th floor, we don't have a presentation like that, so we can see the elevation from all different angles.
Tina, can you do that? Can you go down the street?
Well, right now, correct me if I'm wrong, we could do all that. We haven't developed, since the back of the building in design B, there's really no alley. The back of the building, essentially, you're going to see cars down below. The facade stays the same. We haven't developed that. We haven't developed that part of it in a virtual reality setting, because again, we didn't know that if this was even going to be contemplated. So what we've done is focused really on the real impact, which is essentially Cedar and your western facade. So if you look at, if we do this, if you go all the way back, you're only going to see the design A rear and not the design B rear.
Okay.
Now it's the same, but if you look down below, you're going to see an alley, and in reality, that alley is not an alley; it's a parking garage with cars. So that's what the only difference. And we could go show you
provide that. Yeah, we can provide that.
I'm just curious, what does the design B, does that have any impact on South Presbyterian's view?
Well, it does, right? Because there's a fourth story there. But South
I didn't know if that was going to be below the grade or not.
Well,
the lower levels below the grade.
The lower levels are all below grade, but the South Presbyterian is so much higher than the entire development. We could go to the survey perhaps and get a spot grade and see how it differs from the height of what is currently proposed right now. If you want to go to the survey, Suzanne, maybe we could get a spot grade from the Presbyterian parking lot, and we could.
Because I mean, we're considering Zion's needs, which is very important to us.
Yes.
But we don't want to now negatively impact South Presbyterian.
No, absolutely, and we've sent these plans to South Presbyterian, and if they're on this call here, so zoom in right there. Yeah, right there in the parking lot. Let's just see if we could get a spot grade, Suzanne, so that we could answer that question. Right. Yeah. Let's see if we can zoom in. Right. Okay. So I see a spot. I see that grade line. You see that dash grade line, 198. Okay. So, so what is the? We are at 223. So with the 3-story, we're at 213. Okay, or 212 rather. So 198 and 212. I could do the math. There's 14 difference. And then with the 223, which we're probably going to reduce that, to probably 218, we're at 20-foot difference. So we're impacting South Presbyterian, but probably around around 4 to 6 feet, maybe, or 4 feet. We're going to try to keep it in that area. So with the 4th story, there would be an additional 4 feet of building that they would be looking at. Okay.
And it appears as a 3-story building from the rear. So
Suzanne, if you could show them that, this is the rear elevation, and if you see that dashed line, that's the grade at the property line. And so when you're on that edge, you're looking at the 2nd floor windows, and then you see the 3rd floor and the 4th floor. So you're going to see not quite three stories of the building from that view, and then the grade continues to go up, towards south towards the church.
Right. So if you take a look at where that 1 is, okay, that's the grade of the parking lot. Okay. If the
Is this
parking lot
A or B?
198,
this is B.
parking lot is
B.
there. Huh? No. The grade of the
No,
Presbyterian.
she asked if this was A or B, Cosmo. This is B.
This is B, yes. But it doesn't matter if it's A or B, because we're just showing that the grade of the parking lot, that 198, which is also sloped, because it also slopes down the parking lot. So Suzanne, if you move it up a little bit, let's see what is, see, it goes to 199 and so on and so forth. But at, the 200, now you're getting closer. As you move further away from the property line, you are getting closer, you're getting higher in grades. So your impact is less. And that's why we provided this, we did a whole survey of this property so that we could have these kind of discussions with Presbyterian.
I think for the board, I think we're going to need to do a site visit between now and the next meeting, possibly, so that we can see all of these things together, if that's possible, guys.
We did a site visit once before, but we could do it again. I know some of us were there. I think,
For 41 Cedar?
didn't we do that?
I did
No,
not do
Vinny, I think you and I did that.
I did one, yes, right. So I apologize for that. We'll do another one for everybody, so.
I also think, that it would be potentially very advantageous were there to be some better communication between Zion and the development team. I really feel that there could be the potential for some progress on more mutually agreeable approaches to some of these issues that have been raised.
I totally agree with you. We've been trying. At the last meeting, I went on record that I would meet any Friday except for Good Friday. Remember saying that? Anytime. And what's happened right now is that Presbyterian and Zion have met. It took a while. Okay, we had COVID. That's fine. It took a while. They met last Friday, and I was given an intro email yesterday from members of the Presbyterian Church to one of the junior warden over at Zion, and I tried like hell to get a meeting before this meeting, but it couldn't work for their schedule. but I'm open and anytime. I
Right.
very little, I'm here. I live in Pleasantville. My office is in White Plains. I could shoot down whenever. We're all open with the architects. We're thinking about bringing our arborists down to meet with them and explain it to them so that they get it from a professional, from somebody who actually knows what they're talking about in terms of trees. And like Linda said, we're open to doing some planting on the Zion Church side, which could mask some of the retaining wall that we're planning to build. I think there's still space to do something very tasteful and beautify that whole driveway up to the on the left hand side, the driveway up to the back of the church. I think it'll be a plus. I think it would be a good for us, good for them. Yeah, right there. I just can't get anybody to even pay attention to me.
I know one thing Zion was asking for was some sort of a bond to ensure that if there's any damage done to their property during construction or whatever, that he would be covered for that.
Yeah, that's
typically a part of the site plan approval.
right.
I thought, but I just wanted that on record.
And if it's highly unusual, bonds are usually given to protect the municipality. We're not doing any construction on their property, to do something that isn't typically done. But we'd like the opportunity to speak to them and see if we can work out some of this landscaping. And we're certainly not going to provide a bond with respect to some of the trees based on the arborist report that we've gotten that basically says those trees are in extremely poor health as they are.
Right. I just want the opportunity to be a good neighbor.
Right.
And it's construction. There is gonna be debris that may fly one day because there's a high wind that's gonna go on their property, and we're gonna send somebody over. We're gonna clean it up, and there may be some concrete splatter, and we're gonna go there and clean it up. We're gonna and we want to talk to them. We want to give them a schedule. We want to say, if you're having certain services on Saturday or let's work together so that we don't work overtime or whatever it is. This is something that happens on every single project. You talk to your neighbors before the construction start. You tell them what's going to happen. You give them the site super's number, the project manager, and even my number. I don't care. And you work it through. I just need an opportunity.
Right, and it probably takes more than 24 hours to
No, absolutely.
make
But
that
we haven't been trying. We've been trying for a year more, not just 24 hours.
Okay, do any of the other trustees have anything else to add or ask? Okay, so at this time, I'll turn it over to the people who would like to participate by raising their hand. I just want to state before we open it up that there will be another public hearing on this issue. We will ask that the applicant meet with Zion before the next public hearing. And so if you have any other concerns you'd like to address, please do so. And I'm going to ask Jen, wherever she is out there, to
somewhere.
Mayor, could you just enter into the record those written comments just by name and date, the ones that we've already received, just so they're in the record?
I was going to ask them if they could just raise their hand and voice their comments, because some of them went along with.
No, the written comments that were submitted by the deadline this afternoon.
I thought you meant in the chat. I'm sorry.
If we could just read that, the list, and just be sure that they're physically moved into the record, so the board has the benefit of those. If you don't have a copy of those, I can.
So this is what I received with regard to the application for 41 Cedar Street regarding the public hearing. We received an email dated June 7th, 2020 from Larry and Peggy Buzard. We received an email and attachment dated June 8th, 2020 from Michael Sabatino. We received an email and attachments dated June 8th, 2020 from Zion Episcopal Church. We received an email with pictures dated June 9th, 2020 from Sonia Targinian. We received an email dated June 9th, 2020 from Jessica Malberg. And we received an email and attachments dated June 9th, 2020 from Mary Ford Sussman. Those are the emails that we received. I want to thank Liz for putting that all together and making it easy for me to read. So thank you for that. And that'll be made part of the record.
Okay, and we do have one resident with her hand up. Can you just make sure to say your name and your address for the record? Lisa, can you hear us?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So, hi guys, best of luck on the project for everyone concerned, and I hope everyone's well. My question is, in light of the environment and of course being post-COVID, I'm curious if the budget has been revisited at all, and if the construction schedule has been revisited, if there's a health and safety plan in place due to work restrictions, and of course, given the amount of people we can or can't have in a certain square footage and workers related to the construction of the property.
I'll take that. So, in general, let me tell you that our firm, on the construction side, have taken huge steps towards addressing safety and COVID, even before even before they stopped construction. So yes, we not only abide by the minimal guidelines that the state has put out there, which are really minimal, but we also are abiding on our other project sites through some of the OSHA standards that apply to us. A lot of them are international folks that work internationally. We've everybody's got to wear a mask that's 6 feet, less than 6 feet apart. We staggered, we staggered shifts where, we're making sure that no more than 250 feet or more or square feet are kept apart. So yeah, no, we have staff that sanitize places. I mean, that's a must. That we don't play those games. So that goes beyond saying, and that's something that's we've told as a company we're going to do. Even if a vaccine is happening, it gets to us. This is something that we've instilled in our subcontract agreements with our subcontractors, and as a team agreed that what the best practices are and are reinforced by our contracts. In terms of schedule, obviously we've been delayed, right? We missed 2 or 3 meetings because of COVID. So now we're pushing the envelope. If we could get started in this year, right? We don't want to start a project when it's when there's snow on the ground. It doesn't help everybody. It doesn't help anybody. So we're still aiming, and where we wanted to start in the summer, we need to start this project by the beginning of the fall, because it'll just there'll be some major delays if not, and it can't be viable anymore. So that's why we're all hands on deck, making sure, as you can see, I mean, you can look at the slide. I have all these. All this team members here that all actively working to making sure that this project happens as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Cosmo. Thank you, Cosmo. But that wasn't my question. My question is, has the budget been revisited to compare if there's any added expense or any additional premium cost of materials compared to pre-COVID, post-COVID? And the other question is not so much as schedule as when you're starting, but given the additional requirements and the restrictions, is it going to take longer for you to complete this project because of the restrictions and the reduction of people that can work?
It wouldn't take longer because we're staggering shifts. Okay. The cost, the budget stays the same because we're not sourcing materials from overseas. We, we'll just incorporate in our projects to have materials ordered sooner and perhaps stored off-site or on-site and protected. So no, it doesn't. And you're right. We've had problems like sourcing cabinetry. What we did is we just found another cabinet manufacturer. So you're right. These are real good questions because it's affecting us on some other projects, and the cost has not gone up. And our delays there will be no delays because we just will incorporate them with more shifts.
And have you sourced financing?
We have not sourced financing as of yet. It's tough to source financing when you don't have an approval on a project.
And in the COVID environment, yeah, I'm familiar with that.
COVID environment, right?
Lisa, can I just interrupt for a second? Can you please just state your name and your address for the
Oh,
record?
sorry, Lisa by 63 Ogden Avenue.
Thank you.
Thank you. I had one other question. When you said rotating shifts or staggered shift, does that mean longer hours? Does that mean, you're...
No, we're still going to comply. You're allowed to work, and Ed, correct me if I'm wrong, because every municipality is different, but I believe during the week, you're allowed to work from 7 or 7:30 until 5:30, 6 o'clock. So that's more than 8 hours.
7 to 6:30, Monday through Saturday.
So that's, so that means, it just means that we have folks coming in and overlap some of the shifts, the shifts will overlap each other and there's opportunity for overtime.
Anybody else in the public?
Yes, hold on one second. We have two more.
Again, please state your name and address before you speak before you give or ask your question. And the question should be directed to the board, not directly to the applicant.
Mary Ford Sussman, I just put you on to speak.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm Mary Ford Sussman, resident of Dobbs Ferry, 19 Seneca Street. I'm also the senior warden of Zion Church. I'd just like to address some of the comments that the applicant made regarding our communication. First of all, I really appreciate Cosmo reaching out to us. However, we found ourselves throughout this project in a difficult situation. I think it was compounded, as we've mentioned before, by not having very much communication or information about the project from the beginning and really knowing what was going on. To our understanding, we did not receive any written communication from the developer. There was a reach out after a planning board meeting in September toward me to see if we wanted to speak, but this was after the planning board had already approved the project and we had been at a public hearing that was closed. I think because we felt that we hadn't been informed from the beginning or near the beginning, and that this border issue in particular, we didn't have really information, that we felt somewhat vulnerable. I can say that pretty simply. I can also say that we have our governing board is a vestry of 7 people. We have to meet. We have, since COVID, it's been difficult. And we also have members who are elderly who don't really do Zoom, or it's very difficult to get everybody involved. I do want to say that. And so we also needed to determine what our situation with South Presbyterian Church was and is in terms of that border. I did submit a letter regarding some historical documents that talked about the changes that have gone along that border for 100 years. Zion property has been, our property's been the same South Pres, acquired that 20 strip piece of land that we're talking about where the pocket park will be in 1916. We've been here since 1833. So the fact that there's a little bit of challenge about that border, we always thought that our border was that chain link fence. And we had this nice screening of tall trees that bordered our driveway, which we've just repaved. So we are always feeling like we're doing catch up. So it isn't really that we don't want to meet with the developer, but we feel that we needed to first reach out to South Pres. We have a longstanding relationship with them and understand their position, and also determine what's best for us. We were under the impression that the village would be supplying a arborist to look at the trees and the plantings along that northeastern border from the last meeting, because we felt that would be in more neutral position. We did receive the Save a Tree report. However, most of those trees on that report are determined to come down, even trees on our property. I can say numbers 17 through 24 said that they should come down or be replaced. And I think we don't agree with necessarily the arborist's review of all those trees. But needless to say, we would be willing to meet with the applicant after we now, as we said, we had met with South Presbyterian. A few of us met with a few of members of South Pres and on Friday, but we need now to go back to our full vestry and have a meeting before we can meet with the applicant. But we certainly do want to speak with him and discuss what our needs are and see what can be done. I have to say that just to hear that we wouldn't have large trees is a difficulty for us, because there are some of them are dead, but some of them are not, and they do provide a beautiful screening that is appropriate to our 19th century clothes. And now the new plan with the 4 stories presents another massing issue for us and how we would see that. So that's something that has come up, and in our texting back and forth as a number of our vestry members are sitting here. So I just wanted to put that on record, and I hope that we can move forward with some positive discussions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to make a statement?
Mr. Mayor, can I just address one comment? And we do look forward to having communication with Zion Church going forward. I just want to clarify that while the arborist report made comments about removing those trees on Zion's property or recommending they be removed because of their condition, it is not our proposal to actually remove them. That was a recommendation of the arborist based on the condition.
Okay.
I'm gonna let Mary speak. Mary, can you hear us?
I'm going to unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. I'm the Reverend Mary Gramsch. I'm the priest in charge at the Zion Episcopal Church. And I second my senior warden's comment and suggestion that we had wanted to meet with the developer, but we felt that to be a good neighbor, that we needed to meet with South Presbyterian first. And given what we both churches have been dealing with the pandemic, that meeting was later than we had hoped it would be. We were also waiting for the village arborist report, which was asked for by the board at the last meeting. I will tell you that Val of Community Tree, who has serviced trees for more than 40 years, has also looked at our trees, and he has over the years done work along the driveway. And we had noted that there are 2 particular ones that are dead, but I would like to see the village arborist report as one that is more neutral. And I await that. Also, there is, I must admit to some confusion about the virtual view of the side of the building. It indicates that there is a 4 foot or so grassy strip that these beautiful little trees that look like they're maybe 8 or 10 feet tall, sort of puffy round trees. There is indeed not that much land between the proposed restraining wall and our driveway. There is closer to 20 inches, which is not large enough to have trees or even large shrubs enough to soften the view. And with a proposed additional story on the building, that is even more of a concern for me. I actually live at 55 Cedar Street. So we're talking about my backyard, which will have an additional story. And just as the view, you know, the grade does rise toward the back of the building, but in the previous plan, we were seeing 1.5 stories as opposed to now 2.5 stories. And that makes a difference to me as a resident of the neighboring property. So I would like to meet with the developer. I would like to meet after, however, the arborist, the village arborist report can be made so that we can look at a report that is disinterested. But I appreciate the time and effort and energy that the board has put into this and put into hearing and understanding and being sensitive to the issues that we raise. I am concerned about if we had trouble with high and dense enough screening to handle a 3-story building. There's certainly, how can we possibly screen a 4-story building? So those are some of my concerns. And again, I say, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate your time and the board's time. I also want to make one other comment. These plans have not passed unanimously through any of the boards. I have been at almost all of the meetings, the planning board, the AARHB, HB. And so it's not even among seated board members on those boards. There are questions. Thank you.
There is undoubtedly questions, yes. Is that, and thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak?
Yes, I'm gonna let Leslie speak.
Okay, I'm going to just limit it to one more person because I think we've been, at this long enough. And then after this final one, then since we're going to put it over, we could have comments at the next public hearing. So let's have one more person, and please limit yourself to 3 minutes.
Leslie, can you hear us?
Hello, can people hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm Leslie Walter. I live at 40 Clinton Ave, and I'm on the vestry at Zion. Could we see the Mazer Consulting review of Providence traffic study? I don't know where to find it, and I did not know it was even done. I would like to talk about traffic as I did last time. I fail to see how 23, now maybe 24 new cars entering and leaving Cedar Street could be called a positive traffic impact. I take those 3 words right from one of the screens that I saw earlier this hour. Perhaps they're averaging traffic over a 24-hour period, then they could call it some kind of minimal impact. Also, if that storefront, and thank you for decreasing the storefronts, but if that storefront becomes a Starbucks, I mean, I can't even imagine what havoc that would cause to traffic. thank you for the new design. I do think that it's a bit large in the back as regards to Zion, but my main problem is with traffic and with having all those new cars on and off Cedar. Thank you.
Well, certainly you can look at the traffic report that will be made available if it hasn't been already been made available. So I was going to put this over for 2 more weeks to the next session, but it sounds like there may be more time. So you tell me, Ms. Whitehead, do you think you can get this done in 2 weeks? I also would like, I mean, is there an objection to having an arborist at that a village is choosing that unfortunately you would have to pay for? I mean,
No, we weren't sure if the village had an arborist. That's why we went ahead and retained Save-A-Tree. Save-A-Tree is very reputable. They're used, you know, all over the county. Some municipalities actually use them. I think, you know, if the village feels that it needs to have an arborist to review that report, just like any other consultant, to review our work, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm going to defer to Cosmo on the timing. Cosmo, do you think you can get those changes and stuff done in 2 weeks?
And meet with Zion Church in 2 weeks.
Well, let's do this, okay? Just so that we can move this along. Let's do our part. Make sure that we could get down to a certain height. Look at adding another affordable unit and perhaps another market rate unit, see what happens to the parking. So at least, you know, at least we could show the board that, you know, what kind of design we could come up with. And then if we need to, you know, keep the public hearing going for another week, another 2 weeks after that, you know, so that we could meet with the Zion Church, then obviously, like I said, as long as we move the ball along and not wait, you know, months at a time, I really would appreciate it, especially since we missed, you know, all this time with COVID.
You tell us, you want June 23rd?
June 23rd would be great.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to adjourn this public hearing to the Board of Trustee meeting on June 23rd, 2020 at 6:30. Do I need a motion for that, Laura Lee?
Go ahead. Yeah, I would take a resolution.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn this? Trustee Patino, second. Trustee Nell, all in favor? Okay, so I want to thank everyone. The meeting had been adjourned. The public hearing has been adjourned to June 23rd. During that time, the village will contact an arborist to review the Save-A-Tree report, and the applicant will take further action as outlined by Cosmo and by the attorney, Linda. Okay.
And if you want to start to coordinate perhaps a site visit, you should go in the smaller groups because of COVID. So we can be in touch with the developer and Zion to make sure that you can see things from both sides of the property line.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, the next item would be courtesy of the floor. Is there anybody here present who would like to speak courtesy of the floor? If there is, again, please limit your comments to 3 minutes and identify yourself and your address. Is there anyone, Jennifer?
We have nobody with their hands up yet. Oh, yeah, somebody just raised their hand. Hold on. Can you hear us?
Yeah, hi, it's Niall Kane. I just wanted to take just a brief moment to talk about the Black Lives Matter rally that was in at the park recently. It was just a wonderful, moving event, and I think congratulations go out to Rebecca Barron and her friends for starting, sort of doing the catalyst for getting that moving. It was just very, very powerful event, and I'm really proud that it was in Dobbs Ferry. And I just, there were some great comments. I don't want to spend too long on it, but just extolling the the sort of virtues and importance of it. One little thing in my mind that maybe I was a little concerned about is that, Mayor, to your credit, I know you talked to the chief of police and were assured that racism is not tolerated in the building, in the police department. And that's certainly true of every organization in this village. I do just wonder about that, just like every community across the country, Dobbs Ferry needs to look at itself as well and not think of this as a nationwide problem or a problem outside of Dobbs Ferry. One little comment that a woman made that struck me, she said, like many did, that she came to Dobbs Ferry for the education opportunities for her children. But then she went on to say that she had, she didn't think she would ever have to feel awkward about living in a particular part of Dobbs Ferry. And who knows what was said to her or why she felt that way exactly. And then she also went on to say that she was offended, I guess, and she might not have used that word, about the fact that the police park in a particular part of her neighborhood, almost in her, this is her impression, of course, that it suggested that that the police were expecting trouble in that area. And I know I have every confidence in the world that the chief of police and the police had no intention of doing that, but it speaks to sort of a need for, what's the right word?
Self-examination.
No, not self-examination. It's sensitivity training. And we talked about this I'm from Zion, as you know, at our Zion Zoom meeting the other day, and talked about the fact that I could use it. Everyone really could use it. And St. John the Divine offers some courses like that, and we're going to look into it for our parish. But I think it's important for there to be a real discussion of the border. And I don't know what you talked about, so I'm making some suppositions maybe, but to really talk about it in depth and think about the need for maybe these kinds of sensitivity courses. I know Mary Jane Shimsky talked about a week-long course, and then she sort of demurred a bit and said, well, maybe you could get the brief version of that. But these things are really important because it's those little things like the unintentional parking in one area of Dobbs Ferry that grows resentment. And maybe you could say, there's really no reason why she should feel that way. But those little things, if you can avoid those, they're so important. And I just want to say, I think there should be maybe a task force or some real considered thought about this, about what Dobbs Ferry can do. And I also am privy to the fact that there are a number of organizations throughout all the river towns that are preparing various documents to be sent to all the river towns boards in Ardsley and Tarrytown, suggesting things that can be looked into and be done. So that's my.
Thank you. I left there also thinking that we have to do more. As far as the police parking, I understand that they park there, to catch speeders, or so that one particular area is to catch people who are speeding.
Yeah, and absolutely, I have no doubt. Sorry.
That's exactly true on the parking, because the car is there specifically for speeding. It was requested by the residents who live on Bellwood and going up to the school.
Right, and again,
so that was that. That's not there for surveillance. It's specifically for traffic control.
And
we just need to clarify that with them.
Yeah, well, thank you for clarifying that. But I sort of assumed that certainly that was the case. But my point is that without maybe realizing it, or maybe there's a way to realize beforehand, maybe this woman, whoever she was, could have joined a task force. Maybe the police could contact her and say, I want to be assured of exactly what you just said, so she feels some confidence. Because again, it's those little things, again, unintentional, no question, that grow into something bigger. And if there's any number of little things like that that we could all think about that are possible little starts of possible conflict, of possible issues that we can avoid with some understanding, some more sensitivity training, if you will. And I just think that's really, really important thing to consider.
No, I understand. And I think, I left there thinking there's more that we have to do. And I think all of us think that there's more that we have to do. Because I was moved by her speech. I remember listening to her, and I was moved by that. So certainly, we're going to take a look at what more we can do. And it was a very moving experience. And I promise you that we will move and move forward and see what more we can do to make people feel more comfortable. So thank you.
Thank
Is there
you.
any-
Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
No, Mayor, I don't see anyone else.
All right, so let's move to action item number 1, which is to consider a motion to appoint Megan Ortiz as Deputy Treasurer for an annual salary of $78,193 effective on June 1st, 2020. Jeff, can you speak to this?
Sure. I don't know if you recall during budget season, we talked about aligning staff closer to their titles. Megan has worked in the finance office for close to 10 years. So I feel this is a more appropriate title for the work that she does.
Okay. Does anybody from the board have any questions? Okay. If there are no questions, is there a motion to appoint Megan Ortiz as Deputy Treasurer? Trustee Nell, second. Trustee Sullivan, all in favor? And that passes 7-0. So item number 2 is to consider a motion to appoint Alyssa Fassman as Secretary to the Village Administrator for an annual salary of $70,000 effective on June 1st, 2020. And Charlene, can you talk to that?
You muted.
Unmute yourself.
Muted.
Yeah.
I'm just talking. It's my pleasure to recommend this to the board. Obviously, this has been a very hard time for all of us during the COVID situation. But Elisa has brought us to a new level of communication. Her job will consist of, obviously, communication and special projects. I think that she will be an unbelievable addition to an already great team. In fact, she has bonded with many of the people here. I know that all of you have experienced her really wonderful writing and communication skills. I know for a fact that Trustee Nell is is off the moon with this one. And also her ability to look at projects, see the intricacies of the project, and meet every benchmark. So there you have it. On a 1 to 10, this is a 30, 40 recommendation.
Is Alyssa?
I want to add something, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Trustee DeRozan.
I just really need to add because a lot of people might be wondering how come we are doing this in the middle of a pandemic, et cetera, but I don't believe that we would have been able to survive everything that has occurred in the last couple of months without her. So I am extremely grateful for everything that she has contributed to this team and to the village. So she is definitely, as Patty wrote somewhere in there, a real true hero to us right now. So I'm very grateful for her contribution to the village. So definitely something that, hands up for that. We definitely love to have her.
Well, you know, when I became mayor, I really wanted to improve the communication to the village because, you know, we're moving very quickly in a new world of communication, and I thought we were always behind in getting things out and getting the message out. And I have to give Charlene all the credit. She, you know, hired Alyssa just at the right moment, and Alyssa is without a doubt that she's made. Because Alyssa, I don't know what I would do without you because you've been great, and it's been perfect timing, perfect messaging, and I can't say anything more than I'm so grateful that you're here. So welcome. And I think we have.
Can Jeff or Charlene talk to the budget and how this is built into it so that we understand better where the money is coming from that we're using to pay her?
Certainly.
Jeff?
Again, during budget time, Charlene and I, looked over that budget very closely like we do every year, and determined that, if we could save here, do a little bit there, that we could definitely afford to have the additional staff member.
Trustee Nell, it was a necessity. There was no question that we could afford it, and now we can't afford to do without. Some positions are such that you have to make a determination of where to go with it.
Okay, so is there a motion? Deputy Mayor Cassell, second Trustee Taylor, all in favor? And that passes unanimously. So welcome, Alyssa.
Elisa.
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 Lisa.
Thank you. I'm grateful. It's a great team.
Thank you. Let's hope to say that in 6 months from now.
You live in Dobbs, right, Elisa? You live in Dobbs and you work in Dobbs. Watch out, man. Tough to work where you live.
Okay, action item number 3 is to consider a motion to approve audits numbers 1 and 2 for June 2020 as recommended by the village treasurer. Is there anything that you'd like to add, Jeff?
No, it's just, standard audit that we, the process, and, unless there's questions from people.
Is there a motion? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Action item number 4 is to consider a motion to authorize the mayor to sign an intermunicipal agreement with Westchester County for solid waste and recyclables disposal for refuse disposal, District Number 1, subject to review by the attorney for the village. Charlene, can you shed some light on this?
If you want your garbage picked up and dumped someplace, we have to enter this IMA. And it is a county contract, which I know from experience is not able to be changed, no matter if you stand on your head or anything. So this is the contract. The price is what has been negotiated for all the communities that partake in this contract. And that is, let me see what it is.
So 20.
29.28 per ton.
Right.
And it will be subject to an adjustment factor equal to the consumer price index each year. So it's going to go up every year, subject to the consumer price index.
Okay. Is there a motion? Trustee Sullivan, second. Trustee Dell, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Okay. Agenda item number 5 is to consider a resolution to reinstitute parking enforcement to increase available parking and support the reopening of local businesses. So as we have a resolution which does explain the past, that on April 28th, 2020, we temporarily suspended the enforcement of certain local parking regulations so that people who were home didn't have to move their cars or didn't have to worry about the fees from the meters or alternate street side parking. And then subsequent to that, we have downtown restricted parking to 30 minutes temporarily on Cedar and Main Street, which I think did what we intended it to do. It did free up a lot of the parking and did help the local businesses. But as we go into June, we should discuss whether we want to restore the parking laws as we've had in the past. So is there any discussion for this at all? Yes, trustee Mel.
I think going back to the regular parking meters would be great. I hope that we can figure out a way to have some areas for curbside pickup where there's a designated location in some spots for people to go to get their pickups, because they are still going to be needing to do that for some time. And that's just the safer way to do it rather than go inside. So if we can work with the chief to figure out what spots, I know he had a lot going on last week, making sure everything was safe with the waterfront rally. But hopefully this week we can get together and look at some spots that we can block off or have 15-minute meters for those spots so that there could still be curbside pickup in parts of Cedar and Maine. But otherwise, I think all the businesses would appreciate having the 2 hours back so that people can stay longer to do the things that do require more time.
Trustee Nell, I believe that you and the chief have discussed it, and we're talking about 13 spaces, like some in the middle of the block and some at each end, to really give the curbside pickup someplace to park. So, and you're right, we'll do that next week. Also with the other, with the Cedar Street lot and the Oak Street lot, that's a movable feast at this moment because we have other issues that we are trying to determine. But for now, everything goes back to what it was. And then we'll work on different issues as they come along.
On the metered spaces, right? We're not talking about the lots, are we? In this resolution, we're talking about the metered spaces?
I believe according to this particular resolution.
Yeah,
that-
you're
Going
lifting
back-
that suspension of enforcement on all parking, the ones you specifically designated. You're lifting the suspension of enforcement. You
That
can
includes
revise it.
waterfront park as well? Does that
Yeah.
include waterfront park?
Mhm. You can revise it as necessary, but yeah.
So how does the majority feel about lifting all regulations regarding, this is the suspension regarding it? We just go back to where we were everywhere in every location.
My question is, if we are doing these 13 pickup spots, that's going to be less parking in our downtown on Cedar and Main. Would we want to keep 99 Cedar free for the time being for people who need parking spaces with those additional 13 spaces?
I would suggest, this is just my suggestion, that we keep Oak and we'll keep 99 Cedar and Oak and Village right now for a period of 2 weeks, maybe till we get a sense of it, and Waterfront Park as residents only for the period for the next 2 weeks. And I would amend this resolution.
How does the
I agree with that.
Okay. Trustee Patino, how do you feel about that?
I agree. I think it's good to, as our businesses start to open back up and things start to sort of go back a little more to how they were, that changing the parking back to where it was is a sensible thing to do. I don't know, we're just talking about the 2 lots behind Village Hall and then adjacent to it behind
99
parallel to Main
Cedar,
Street.
3 lots, 99 Cedar, Oak Street, and Village.
And the concern is that by removing the 13 spaces, that we would be somehow impacting parking. I don't see that that's the case because those 13
I don't
spaces
think that's
will be
the
used.
only reason. I think there's also a reason of just like sort of easing into a full blown back to usual.
I don't see any issue with the resolution as it's written, because I think those 13 spaces are going to be used in ways that people have traditionally used them, which is to stop and pick up things. So I don't see that having those designated spaces as having a broader impact. But
Trustee Taylor?
On reflection, I would agree with the 99 seater and behind Village Hall and continuing the residence restriction at the waterfront. But Oak Street is more of a substitute for that on-street parking right there. And so I think you want to encourage turnover in the Oak Street lot. And that we could, people can park at 99 seater or behind the Village Hall and walk if they're going to leave their car for a long time.
Trustee Sullivan?
I'm okay with it, with what was proposed.
Well, what about, because Larry's now saying that we should let Oak Street still be, go back to being,
One's Oak Street, the one behind Village Hall.
no, the Sushi Mike.
Sushi Mike.
You Mike ones. I think we could see how it goes. I'm fine with that too. We want to encourage, now that the restaurants are opening for outdoor dining, we want to encourage people to park and move on, but they should also be encouraged to use cedar and walk. It's nice out.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually.
Trustee DeRozzi?
I am in agreement. It's completely fine. I think that the proposal is good. If we run into any problems, then we have room to change.
Trustee Now?
So we have free parking, no enforcement at 99 Cedar and behind Village Hall. And then the side lot next to Sushi Mike's and Cedar and Main are all back to the regular enforcement.
And waterfront parking for resident only.
Right. And the ones, so the ones that I'm saying are non-enforced are resident only. Is that what they are right now? Or are they
No,
free for all?
they're not, we couldn't tell, so they're free for all, 99 Cedar and Village
Right,
Hall.
because we don't know, but
But
can I
for
ask
the waterfront, it would be resident only.
Can I ask what's the status on the ability for people to get resident stickers now?
He's working on it, and in fact, we talked about it today, that we're okay with it opening up. We just have to put some tapes down and some ropes up so that they can do it.
Okay, so yeah, I think as long as people can get more resident stickers, we can do that for Oak and 99 Cedar too.
So maybe we should do it
Just a
effective.
question on Waterfront Park. Are the businesses opening, do we need to keep spaces available for people who are taking the MTA? Who are not residents?
Well,
or
they
not?
have the parking. It's resident only and commuter parking.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I want to give people warning about this, so can we, I don't want to say effective immediately, so how about if we do it effective Monday, June 15th? Too long, or what's everyone think?
Are we sending information out, like in a special notification, just to notify people, considering that Elisa is so good at it?
Yes, that's exactly what she was going to do. She was going to send a blast and put it in Thursday.
I think we should try and do it the sooner. I think we should try and do it the sooner the better, and just issue warnings for the people if we can start it, because people, June 9th, they're all opening now, and they need to be able to park longer than a half an hour now.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we're going to do a blast.
Okay. That is correct. Okay. So we'll do it
And I
effective.
do think that we should encourage the businesses to have their owners and the employees take advantage of 99 Cedar and keep these other closer spots open for customers. Just my 2 cents.
So may I take a stab at revising your resolution?
Yes, please do.
No, I want to do it. Then it'll be
Okay,
all wrong.
Christie. So it's in the now therefore be it resolved, you're going to lift the temporary suspension of parking enforcement except for the parking lot at 99 Cedar. And is there an address on the Oak?
Village Hall lot.
The Village Hall lot and 99 Cedar. And you're going to return to parking enforcement at the other parking areas. Because
And
waterfront will be
resident
parking
only.
parking available for
Residents and commuter parking only.
only, okay.
Is there a motion as amended and stated by Laura Lee?
I really don't think it should be called, I'm sorry to be particular, the Village Hall lot, because I really do think of that as the lot right behind where the police cars are and the postal trucks, not the one.
Oh,
behind.
that is the lot they're talking about.
I asked that question. They said it was the one at.
Oh, you said Oak
Sushi
Street.
Point.
The one on Oak Street is what Larry was saying we should enforce again so that people don't park there for long periods of time.
Just higher then, so we're not enforcing at Village Hall and we're enforcing on Oak Street.
Yes.
Apologize. I've had a very long day. Sorry. Okay.
So is there a motion as outlined by Laura Lee? Trustee Nell, second, trustee Taylor. All in favor? Okay, and that passes unanimously.
Phew.
Action.
Lisa will make it all very clear.
He will. Action item number 6 is to consider a motion to authorize the chief of police to enter into a renewed maintenance agreement with Goosetown Radio at an annual monthly rate of $1,309 effective July 1st, 2020. I don't know if the chief is here.
No, the chief is not on here, but it is the same rate as it was last year. It's for the maintenance of the radio, and it's a necessity.
Okay, is there a motion? Trustee DeRozzi, second. Trustee Nell, all in favor? It passes unanimously. Action item number 7 is to consider a resolution to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Westchester Greenhouses and Farm to operate a weekly farmers market at 99 Cedar Street with a start date of Friday, June 12th, 2020. I know, Laura Lee, you were working on the memorandum of agreement with the greenhouse.
Yes, actually, Ms. Draper and I were communicating directly with the representatives from the Westchester Greenhouses. They have provided a layout for 99 Cedar and also an action plan to be in compliance with the COVID-19 pandemic restrictions. So we have received the materials, including the insurance certificate, and they are prepared to commence working and making the market available this coming Friday.
Yeah, that's great. So is there a motion? Trustee Razi. So let me just read, a second, Trustee Patino. Before we vote on it, I just want to read the part of the resolution. Whereas the overarching goal of the 2020 Farmers Market is to provide a safe opportunity and convenient location for quick and purposeful shopping for fresh, local, and regional farm products. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Dobbs Ferry hereby authorizes the village administrator to execute a memorandum of agreement that incorporates mandatory safety precautions with Westchester Greenhouses and Farm to operate a farmers market at 99 Cedar Street on Fridays between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. in 2020 season. All in favor? That passes unanimously. Thank you.
So when does it start?
Friday.
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 Friday? Okay.
See you there at 9:01 with a mask on. Action item number 8 is to consider a resolution extending permits due to COVID delays. Ed, can you speak to this?
Yeah, this is just another measure to recognize the hardships that people face because of the shutdown. So we want to extend any valid permits for the 10 weeks that the homeowners and contractors lost without any additional renewal fee for those 10 weeks.
Okay, so is there a motion? Trustee Sullivan, second, Trustee Nell. We have a resolution that I will read just the therefore be it resolved part. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Dobbs Ferry hereby extends the expiration date by 10 weeks for any permit which was valid as of March 13, 2020, to accommodate for the suspension of non-essential construction of the COVID-19 pandemic emergency. All in favor? That passes unanimously. We are now down to the minutes. Has anybody taken the time to review the minutes, and do they have any objections, comments, or questions? Having heard none, is there a motion to adopt these minutes? Mayor Cassell, second. Trustee Patino. Any discussion? All in favor? It's adopted unanimously. Anybody have any announcement that they would like to make? Trustee Sullivan, announcement about anything?
Well, I went and did a tour of our new pool last night, and I have to say it's amazing. I don't know that I would ever call a pool this, but it's beautiful. It's just everything about it is perfect. It will look even better when they get the sprinkler and the sod in. Kendra and her team really did an amazing job in designing it and getting all the nicks. Even the they have like fire hydrant squirters for the kids. They all have different pressures and they're all self-regulated. It's really cool. So I think the village is going to be really happy once they get to use it, and hopefully everything staying the way it is now. It will be open this summer for, at least reduced use. So that's the most exciting news I have.
That is our goal, to make sure that the pool is available sometime during the summer. And we hope to have some type of an announcement within the next 2 weeks about that. I know Charlene's going to kill me for saying that, but I hope to have some kind of announcement out by the 2-week period. So, Trustee Nell, do you have anything?
Regarding businesses and downtown businesses, we're working behind the scenes on solutions to try and help them have more outdoor area to conduct business on top of safely. So keep an eye out for that. I think the village staff has been working very hard to prepare what those parameters are to make sure everybody's safe and there's no terrible accidents or anything. And then I started the liaison for the AHRB last night, Patino. It was awesome. It was riveting. I'm sorry you were not there anymore, but it was a good time. And Rivertown Square is there presenting their signage, their new signage ideas, and they're nowhere further on the mural, but that'll be back to us once they're done with it. That's my news.
Thank you. Trustee DeRozzi?
I just want to extend a big thank you to the administration for the work that they put in putting the event that we recently hosted at the waterfront for Black Lives Matter. I think that they did an outstanding job considering the short notice and everything that it was involved. I was very, very impressed with everything that it was done from the police department to the DPW to, of course, our team directly. It was and thank you for such an amazing speech, Mayor. It was very, very moving, and everyone else that it was involved. I also don't want to forget to thank Jeff for working with Jen and the team with the Youth Services Council for the grant. I know that it is budget season and it was so many things happening at the same time, but Jeff took the time to really review this to make sure that we can submit this grant and have these extra funds for our youth. So thank you so much for everyone that was involved.
Thank you. Trustee Taylor?
I don't have anything this meeting.
Trustee Patino?
I don't have anything to announce.
Deputy Mayor Cassell?
Nothing at the moment.
So I would like to announce that we're having the drive-in this Friday at Mercy College. I don't know what time it starts. Maybe someone can help me with that. I think the details will be posted, or if they haven't already been posted, they will be posted shortly. So keep an eye out on that. We will have details concerning the drive-in movie at Mercy College this Friday. I also would like to thank everyone for their efforts for the Black Lives Matter rally. I know that estimates go anywhere from 400 to 600 people that attended. I understand that the cleanup was a breeze because there was very little litter or garbage left behind by people. And the police department we handled it, the traffic and everyone very well. So I want to thank the police department, DPW, the village administration, and especially the 3 young people that put it together. I think it was an amazing event. And I think it shows that we have work to do as a village, which we will follow through on this. So thank you, everybody. And there being no further business, or is there anything else that you would like to add, Charlene? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Okay. I was very impressed by the lack of garbage in the park. It was great. I have never seen anything like it. Neither has Steve. Everybody that I saw wore masks and picked up their own garbage. So a real big shout out. Everybody should be so good. Every group should be so good.
Anything else? Having heard no business, further business, we will adjourn to advice of council meeting. So thank you, everyone. This concludes the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. Wait.
Hey, you have to take a motion to close the public meeting.
I think I would know by now. Is there a motion to close the public meeting? Trustee Sullivan, second. Deputy Mayor Cassell, all in favor? And that passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone.